according to DCT, cognition is always this interplay between the verbal and the nonverbal systems. And here's another test. What is the nonverbal system? Imagery, right? And the verbal system is all that language that you're taking in. Imagery is static representations and dynamic representations. Here's another test. What kind of representations could Lance make? Did he make static representations easily or dynamic representations easily? Which one do you think? Yes, he probably had no difficulty with concept imagery. If his mother read it to him, he got it. What kind of imagery could Michelle do? Static imagery, the parts or the whole? Parts. Okay, are you guys all with me? But there appear to be these individual differences, and these are the symptoms of this weakness in concept imagery. Now, as I read these, I want you to be thinking of all the people that you know that could have this weakness, okay? Sometimes when I present, someone will raise their hand and say, I'm married to someone like that, you know? Anyhow, written language comprehension obviously can be affected by this. Lance could have weakness in written language comprehension, but that was because he couldn't decode. I'm saying that you can have weakness in written language comprehension even if you can decode. Oral language comprehension, critical and logical thinking, following directions. How many times have you seen that child that you can give them 5 and 6 directions and they can follow it and just go right through and do it all? Give another child 5 and 6 directions, they can't even get the first one. Expressing language orally can be difficult. They can have difficulty expressing language in writing. They write what's called linear. Their writing is linear in that it doesn't have a whole. It doesn't come together. It's just sort of disjointed. They can have difficulty grasping humor. A lot of the students that we see that are in Michelle's concept imagery weakness don't get jokes easily, but they might laugh if there's a banana in the face or excuse me, pie in the face. There, that should have made you laugh. Or slip on a banana. They have difficulty with language-based humor. These individuals also have difficulty interpreting social situations. Now, those of you that are here because you know something about autism should begin to see that there's now starting to be a range of symptoms here that link you on to autism spectrum disorders. And about, I'd say 15 years ago, I was making a presentation at Stanford University, and I had no idea really enough about autism to even give an answer to this. But a woman raised her hand. She was a physician. She said, Nancy, all those symptoms describe what we now call Asperger's. And I did not know at the time what Asperger's syndrome was. It's a form of autism. They can have difficulty with cause and effect. They can lose attention and focus. And here's a big one. They can have difficulty responding to the communicating world because they have trouble with oral and written language comprehension and oral and written language expression. Look at Edwin. Now, the reason I'm going to show this on Edwin, and I put this into this presentation, is that he talks about the fact that he did have some imagery, but he couldn't bring his images to form a gestalt.
Do you feel like you were visualizing or picturing before you did VV?
Sometimes, but I didn't know how to do it all the time, and I didn't even know I was doing it.
Okay.
And now I do.
You weren't aware of your images?
Right. There would be like an image sometimes, and I would get distracted like on a real big image.
Okay, I've asked that to be stopped so I could talk to you about it. What was the first slide? One of the first slides was Prebram, and Prebram said that you need to bring sensory input to what? Do you remember it? Consciousness. And what he's saying is that he might have done it, but they weren't conscious.
I wouldn't pay attention to the next thing I was supposed to. But now it's different because I would see one part of the story and then I'd see it move forward and then I could tell you how it ends. So I feel a lot better now. And it makes me feel like I can talk to other people without drifting off or people saying, I don't understand what you're talking about anymore.
Okay. The next slide that you're going to see on your screen is going to say, are we teaching children to comprehend? And I think you probably know I wouldn't be starting a campaign on comprehension if I thought we were, but there's data on it also. A woman named Dolores Durkin in 1978, so it was quite a long time ago, did a landmark study that showed, read this, how little explicit comprehension instruction was provided in classrooms. Visualize this. Out of 4,469 minutes, 75 hours of classroom instruction, only a total of 20 minutes was on direct instruction and comprehension. Presley, who I consider a friend of mine that passed away but a couple of years ago, really focused on comprehension, and he found that instruction in comprehension had not increased significantly since Dolores' study, and it was still insufficient. But I think as bad as all that is, too often the strategies that a teacher uses, and this is pretty commonly known, the teacher tells a student what good comprehenders do, and the models of behavior, then leads the student to practice it. And so here's my question. Where is direct stimulation on sensory input? It's probably not there. And that's why the students that you're seeing could say that they still had difficulty comprehending. Now, if you look at the National Reading Panel report, it's called the NRP, they identified 5 areas of importance and examined the amount and quality of the research. Look at how much of that research was on comprehension compared to phonics and phoneme awareness. Remember I told you that we'd shifted back to that circle? Well, there's clear evidence of it.